Good evening. My name is Sandra Craig, and I represent the Etiquette Foundation of Illinois. You are watching a live interactive call-in television program brought to you on CAN TV 21. Let's talk etiquette. During the next 25 minutes, my very special co-host will be none other than Mr. Nathan Wright. We invite you to call in with your questions and your comments at area code 312-738-1060. 312-738-1060. I ask that you call in because today, unfortunately, is our last show of this run, and you won't have an opportunity to call in again until we start back up again. So please, call a friend, call a neighbor, and tell them to tune in to Let's Talk Etiquette and voice your comments and your concerns and your questions. Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Wright.
Well, here we are again.
Yes.
It's wonderful to be here with you once again, to be your co-host. And it's our last show for the season.
Yes.
But that's to be expected. We got a good start. We've had some great shows. And I have enjoyed each and every show that I've been privileged to do with you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's been a privilege sitting next to you as well. I am very grateful for the topics and the commentary that we have been able to cover together.
Yes.
And again, I hate this is the last show, but all good things must come to an end.
Yes, for the moment.
For the moment, yes. I would like to say something, especially to Lincoln Elementary. I'm teaching there in the Bellwood area, and I have first and second graders, and I promised my first graders that I would mention them on the air tonight because
wonderful.
Their behavior and performance was outstanding today. And I commend them in front of all of our audience.
Well, please share some of the things that happened today. I'm excited to hear.
For one, I gave them a little test. I'm teaching them classroom etiquette and how to, be quiet while someone else is speaking. And I was speaking to their teacher, their homeroom teacher. And I told them that if they passed this test, it would really impress me. And that was for them to be quiet while I speak to her. Because, sometimes kids think when you're having a conversation with another adult that it's their opportunity to just talk. And so I gave them a little test today. And I'm telling you, all I did was look at them. And I spoke to Miss Terrell, their teacher. And they were absolutely quiet. In fact, they dropped the quietness down a notch. And I said, I could hear a pin hit this rug. They're so quiet. So I looked at them and I told them, I said, you have passed this test. You have impressed me.
Yes.
And I am going to look out for you.
Yes.
Oh, their faces got all aglow like, she's going to look out for us. I said, and when I look out for you, I look out for you in a good way.
Yes.
And they're all excited. They're antsy now. They're wondering, what is she going to do for us?
Right.
I said, just keep showing me that you can do things like be polite, be courteous, and quiet while I'm speaking to someone else, and I will reward you. So I commend again the first graders, Miss Terrell's class, on much improved behavior.
Yes. What was the curriculum subject today? What were you teaching them?
How to be courteous and polite. So, so it went together.
Right.
And also, I was teaching them when to say thank you and when you say welcome. And it was a very good lesson, and I had one student in another class besides the first graders. I teach the second graders, and they said to me, one of the students said today, I always ask my students at the end of the day, what did you learn today? Because I want to make sure they're paying attention and listening. And one young lady, she stood up and she said, I just want to tell you, Miss Craig, I love etiquette. And I thank you for coming to teach me, because before you came, I didn't know what etiquette meant. I said, are you trying to make me pay you? She said, no, Miss Craig, I'm just thankful. I said, wow. That's good.
Isn't that
That's
amazing?
good. That is amazing.
That's
That is
amazing.
amazing.
That's
and then you know that
a
you're
second grader.
right. And then you know you're helping someone.
Yes.
And then you know sometimes I have to check to make sure the students are paying attention.
Yes.
So I've got this little thing I do. I ask them, did you leave town? I didn't give you permission to go out of town during class. Did you take a trip?
Okay.
And then they look at me because they know that means I know they must have got off focus for a minute.
Right.
So at the end of the day, I asked this first grader, I said, what did you learn today? He said, I learned not to take a trip while you talking. So they're a barrel of fun, and,
wow.
and they're a joy to be with.
Yes.
And I just commend the students at Lincoln Elementary.
Well, you're getting them off to a grand start because now it's an intellectual process. And that's so important because now it's the foundation of all of the other academic curriculums that they're going to be learning in school. The first curriculum is to know how to behave in the classroom
right.
and pay attention. And you need to have self-control and self-discipline. So you're teaching them the right lesson for them to be successful in their life. And I commend you in the great work you're doing there as well.
Well, thank you.
Yes,
thank you,
yes,
Mr.
yes,
Wright. Thank
yes.
you, Mr. Wright. I believe we have a caller. Caller, you're on the air.
Good evening. Mr. Wright, I'll be very, very brief. If you just allow me 60 seconds. You bring up the issue, the reason why they don't want to teach etiquette in school. And I'll tell you the reason why. When you have teachers and principals coming into class before time, and you got teachers have to do things like mop up their classroom, vacuum, and you even have principals doing this because the school is not really in an environment that's suitable for education. And you got teachers helping in the lunch line, and then you got teachers coming in and they got to turn on the water fountains because they got to make sure that certain things, not supplements in the water with the children drinking. And you have teachers that not have enough time to be able to do their lesson plan. Now, you got these type of situations going on. If you look at some of the program like Chicago Tonight, they would tell you about those certain things teachers had to deal with. Now, that's the reason why you have some resistance about in terms of etiquette, because when we have people coming in on their own time to perform the responsibility, and that's the reason why they look at you like you're crazy.
Would you like to address that question, Joe's question? Because you're in the class and you're in the schools more often than I am, and maybe you've seen some of this with the teachers.
Well, I have to say, Mr. Wright, I have not seen that. The teachers are very glad that I'm there.
Yes.
And the teachers are well prepared. My teachers, I can't speak for every classroom because I'm not in every classroom.
Right.
But the teachers are very, very prepared. They're not having any problems getting their lesson plans done. I'm a teacher. I get my lesson plan done. I have not seen one teacher have to sweep or mop or clean her classroom. In fact, Lincoln Elementary is a very clean school.
Yes,
Very clean school.
Yes.
The classrooms are nicely decorated. I have not witnessed any of that. Like I said, I can't speak for any other schools,
right.
but I'm speaking for the school that I'm in.
Yes.
I'm in the hallway. I'm in the lounge. I go through the corridors to get to my classrooms, and I haven't seen anybody or heard anybody complaining about their classrooms not being clean.
Yeah, I haven't heard that myself either. I can imagine under certain circumstances you could have a junky classroom or a messy classroom, but I haven't experienced that, Joe, so I'm surprised to hear that that's a common thing in our public schools. But you can see the difference. You've only been there, what, this is your third week?
This is my third week.
Your third week, and you already see improvement, especially in your first grade class. From the moment you got there, and you've only been with them, what, 4 or 5 hours now total?
Yes.
And you see a marked difference in their behavior.
Yes.
And so you see progress in a short period of time, because this is a subject they want to learn. They want to have understanding. They want clarity on how they should behave. And when that's taught to them, they internalize it. And you see it already in, and by the end of the school year, these are going to be some fabulous, well-behaved, well-mannered young people who are going to be educated. Because if you're paying attention and if you're listening to the teacher, you're going to grasp the lesson. And that's what we want to happen because, as you well know, our schools are failing our children. And
Yes.
that's because they're not behaved and they don't understand how to be behaved. You have to teach them the logic and the philosophy, the reasoning why they should behave.
Yes.
And if once they learn that, then they're well-behaved children.
Right, and you know, a part of classroom etiquette is making sure that the area around your desk is clean and neat, and that causes the whole room to be neat. I've not walked into either classroom at any time and saw paper or anything on the floor.
That's great.
And I come in the midday, so it could be another school, maybe in the city of Chicago schools, but in the Bellwood area where I'm working currently, I've not seen that.
No.
And I've not heard anybody complaining about having to clean their classroom.
Well, that should lead right into what we are discussing today. We're going to cover some things today relative to data that reflects on our public schools and what our young people are learning or not learning. And we thought we would do something that would be more society-based in terms of the data, so you can see what the outcome is as a result of their education.
Okay, I do believe we have a caller. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, I really enjoy your show, and I think that etiquette is so important.
Thank you.
What I would like to say would be that you might get away with an invitation to my house if you don't have etiquette. But after I see the way a person might carry themselves during dinner time, and also not really cut in conversations and not carry themselves as a gentleman or a lady, and then they will never get invited to my house again. But it's so important to have these traits, you know. And I really commend you. Now, all you have to do is go to a public school and watch a lunch break, and you'll see that 95% of the kids do not have etiquette.
That's true.
And you take a school like Clemente. I happen to be Puerto Rican, and you go to a school like Clemente. They had to dismiss 80% of the Latino teachers because they come to school as if they just got out of bed.
I can believe that.
And you can't tell a child to take care of themselves, clean their fingernails and comb their hair if you're not doing it.
That's true.
That's true.
That's very true.
Thank you so much. Please continue to do the good work.
Thank you very much for calling.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was a good call there. And he's right. And you know it, and I know it.
Well, you're teaching every time you stand before a child.
Yes.
Whether
yes.
you're talking or not, you're teaching.
Yes.
Because they're watching you.
That's true. That's true. And they are adopting your behaviors.
Yes.
And you may not realize it, but they are adopting those behaviors. And they if they see you act in a certain way, then they're going to more than likely act the same way or worse. But back to his comment about when you invite people to your home. Now, the whole idea behind that is to certainly present your home as a place for those you invite to enjoy themselves. You know, and good conversation is important, but you do have to be respectful of others' opinions. You have to know how to sit at the table,
yes.
you know, and enjoy a meal. But there are rules to all of that. And if you don't know the rules, then you're not going to be able to navigate and dine with that group of people. And so your social skills are critical to how you present yourself in the world. And if you're lacking in those areas, it's going to reflect on you and maybe reflect on the person whose home you're in, because the other guests may say, why did he invite her? She's just loud and abrasive and, you know, and uncouth and argumentative and all of those things that you don't want your party, your guests to have to experience. And so I definitely understand exactly what he's talking about. You probably won't invite him again.
Yes, yes. Oh, do we have a caller? Okay, I thought we had a caller. Okay, Mr. Wright, you prepared some data that you got off the internet, and it's data on public schools serving predominantly African American communities. Now, Mr. Wright, etiquette is very important to a person or student's education.
Mm-hmm.
And if 80% of its graduates are living in poverty, would you say those students had received etiquette training or a good education? Even if they hadn't received etiquette training, with 80% of them living in poverty, and they were educated for 12 years, something went wrong somewhere, would you say?
I would certainly agree that is the case. And obviously, the education they receive, it was not proficient enough to make them gainfully employed or employable. And if you're not employable, it doesn't matter how many years you went to school or whether you have a diploma or not. Your training in school should be applicable to the job opportunities that are out here that will make you employable. And if you haven't received that kind of training, then you're not going to be employed. Or if you are, you're going to be employed at low-end jobs. And so you can never really escape poverty. Even though you have 12 years of schooling, doesn't guarantee in any way that you will escape poverty. And in most cases, you won't escape poverty because you only end up with a minimum wage job.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes. And also, 60% of its graduates are unemployed 6 months out of 12 months of the year. Can you explain that, Mr. Wright?
Right. Well, the data says that if you are part-time employed, in other words, you're not really working a full-time job, or if you can't maintain a job for a certain period of time and you're laid off for whatever reason, then you're really going to remain in poverty because you can't really, even at minimum wage and you're working 12 months out of the year, that is not enough money to escape poverty. And then there are those who can't even seem to work 12 months, let alone 12 years or 10 years that it would take to perhaps build up some income and build up some experience and be able to get a higher salary that will allow you out of poverty. And so the public education is doing not a good job at all. The data says it's not doing that. And if you look at the data, that will tell you what is really going on and how this education is impacting the community.
Well, Mr. Wright, also I see where it says 30% of its dropouts are unemployable.
That's so true. A young man, especially, he goes to the 11th grade or the 10th grade. He drops out. He doesn't have the skills to be employable. Most can't even fill out an application correctly to be employable. Most can't read well enough to be employable. Our 8th graders are reading at the 5th grade level. 8th graders are graduating from 8th grade, reading at the 5th grade level. And by the time they reach the 10th grade, they're still reading at the 6th grade level. So they don't have the reading skills to be able to fill out an application or write a resume. And so that holds them back. Plus, they don't have the attitude. And this is what etiquette does. At least if you're a dropout and you have the right manners, that will improve your chances tremendously of being employable. If you know how to say yes, sir, and thank you, those basic things. If you can do that well, then you have a fair chance of being employed. If you know how to dress properly to go for an interview, you have a fair chance of being employed. Even though you may still remain in poverty, at least you will have some income and be able to do some things for yourself that you would not otherwise be able to do if you're unemployable.
Right. I spoke to an employer, and he was telling me that he would employ someone that had etiquette skills, that was a team player, even if they lacked the training. He would be willing to train them. He said, but someone that would come to his company with no social skills, not being a team player, rude, he said it wouldn't work because they would just cause division in his company. But yet, if they had etiquette skills, or social education, he would hire them and train them to work in his company. So you're absolutely correct. That is
true.
important.
Absolutely. It's so important. And if you have the right attitude, attitude is reflected in your social training. If you have a negative attitude, you have a frown on your face, your body language is negative, then the employer is not going to take a chance in hiring you because it's not worth taking the chance to do so. They don't want to train you on how to behave or how to be sociable in their company. So you're 5 steps back when you lack the basics in social training.
Today in my class, we were talking about being courteous and polite, and I was telling the students, well, if I came in the room and I said hello, but I made a mean face, how would you feel? Would you feel like I genuinely wanted to greet you or wanted to be here? And they said no. And I said, well, why would you think I didn't want to be here if I showed up? And one student said, because you made a mean face. I said, you're absolutely correct. I said, because your face and your eyes can speak for you.
Absolutely.
So be careful what you cause them to say.
Yes.
I said, I can make my eyes smile, or I can make my eyes frown. And they said, yes, you can. You know, so etiquette is important. Social skills is very important. Now, this next point is really a biggie to me. 90% of prison inmates attended public schools.
That is one of the saddest things that the data supported. They're in prison because, first of all, they lack a number of basic social skills that allowed for them to be incarcerated for either a crime that they committed, or perhaps a lot of them are there for crimes they didn't commit. We know how the system works. And it's so unfortunate that, that if public schools looked at the data, they'll say, well, if 90% of the individuals in prison, went to our schools, then something we're not teaching them. I mean, that would be just common sense. Something in the curriculum that we're not teaching. That's like if I buy a set of tires and I drive off with a new set of tires and I have a flat a block away, then, and then I'm going to begin to suspect something's wrong with these tires. I better take them back and ask the person who sold them to me that these tires are not working. I mean, I got a block away and now the tires went down on a flat. So public education is not doing what they should be doing. They should be looking at the data themselves and saying to themselves that if 90% of the people in prison went to public school, then something we're not teaching them so that we wouldn't have them going to prison. So we teach manners,
social skills,
and morals.
Yes.
And so if you have good moral training, you are ethical, you know the difference between right and wrong, you can't be corrupted that easy, then it's a good chance you won't violate any laws. And they should be teaching criminal justice starting in first year high school.
Yes, yes. And I also think they should teach students how to fill out an application to be employed. I think that should be added as well, because that's the reason we're educating them, so they are employable, or so they do become entrepreneurs.
Yes.
So they need that training as well.
Yes. And
I believe.
Even if they learn that, it's still how they present themselves.
Right.
At the end of the day, it's what I see sitting before me that's going to influence me to make a decision about whether I'm going to hire this person. They may have an immaculate application, but if I'm picking up the wrong kinds of signals from this person's attitude, if they're sitting all sloping down in the chair, and I don't know, and their language skills are very poor, and they can't answer a question without looking off, and instead of looking at me direct and answering the question, I'm beginning to suspect whether they're being honest.
Right, and when you slouch down in your chair or your seat, a potential employer might deem you as being lazy. They can't even sit up straight, so I know they're not going to work long,
No.
So etiquette is very important, your poise, your posture, your behavior, and so forth. I believe we have a caller. Caller, you're on the air.
Is it possible that the whole process that the young people are facing is designed to keep them poor and stupid? And I'd like to point out that most of the educational system is run by educated people, yet they can't seem to actually educate properly. And I'm not talking about the teachers per se. I think they're doing terrific jobs going in the classrooms and doing what they're doing, but the whole educational mechanism is extremely designed to keep, the children basically stupid and available for the prison system and available for social service systems. So for you to edify them, for lack of a better term, is not really going to change that because the forces of education are arrayed against them. Thank you.
Good call. Good call.
Comment, Mr. Wright, on that, please.
Yeah, I kind of, if you say an etiquette, meaning that even though if they have this training, they still have the odds against them. What we do, I think, and we do it very well, is to teach them how to engage and be engaging, and allow your personality to be to say who you are as a person. And we've met some very engaging individuals, young people, and I'm impressed with some of them. And if that person impresses me, that person is higher on my ladder of consideration than they would if they weren't engaging. And if they seem to be pleasant, they seem to smile a lot, they seem to have good answers, they seem to have a good understanding of what they want to do and how they want to work for my particular company, and how that service is something that will benefit me as well as benefit them. You have to sell yourself. And so that's one of the things we teach in high school, in our high school etiquette program.
Yes, yes.
You know, how to promote yourself, how to sell yourself, how to use your intellect to say that you're somebody special. And if you can come across as being somebody special, I guarantee you your chances are going to be far greater to escape poverty than it will be to remain in poverty. But I agree with the caller. The system is designed to create inmates for our prison system, to create jobs for our police departments, to create jobs for lawyers in the courts and the social services programs that we have here. It is designed to do that. And yes, they are educators, but they're not educating that are running the schools, that are in control of the schools. And we get a lot of that from just talking to the principals. Oftentimes they tell us that, I don't get what you do, and I don't see etiquette as being important. So, we get the door closed in our face more often than
And that's
not.
why they have many discipline problems, because they don't see the importance of it.
And you remember the school, there's a school on the west side that I can't think of the name of it, not Catless, but the principal was running around the school yelling at the kids, looking like he's going to have a heart attack.
Yes,
Like he's going to fall out and have a stroke, And so that individual, we tried to talk to him, but he couldn't connect with what we were doing.
Right. Well, Mr. Wright, you're absolutely correct in that, and that I remember that happening. But again, unfortunately, we are at the end of our show, and I want to thank you, Mr. Wright, for being my co-host these last 13 weeks.
I'm so appreciative. Thank you for inviting me.
And I would like to acknowledge our very loyal and faithful phone person, Mr.
Yes.
Don J. Jackson. He deserves a hand.
Yes.
And to you, viewers and callers, thank you for tuning in each Wednesday evening to Let's Talk Etiquette. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your questions. Please continue to look for us in the next run. And remember, it's not too hard to practice etiquette.
No.
Just takes a little effort.
Yes.
And who knows, you may help someone. You will help someone, including yourself. Good night and have a safe weekend.
Goodbye.